world obsessed with perception, it's easy to forget who we really are. Every day, people step into invisible roles: the agreeable friend, the polished professional, the reliable partner, until their true voice becomes buried under years of performance. Society teaches us early that approval is currency, and that belonging often depends on what we can provide, not who we are. We start to mistake adaptation for identity. Authenticity, at its core, is the opposite of performance. It's not rebellion, it's congruence, the alignment between what we think, feel, and express. But that alignment comes with a price. To live authentically means risking disapproval, misunderstanding, and sometimes loneliness. It means walking away from people who only love the mask. Psychologically, authenticity is about integration. Carl Rogers, one of the founding figures of humanistic psychology, believed that the foundation of mental health was congruence. When your inner world and your outer behavior are in harmony, the more we betray what we know to be true, the more we fracture internally. Over time, that fracture turns into anxiety, exhaustion, or depression. We don't feel empty because life is meaningless, but because we're living a version of ourselves that isn't real. Authenticity isn't easy because from childhood, we learn that love can be conditional. We're praised when we behave, criticized when we express too much, rewarded when we fit the mold. So we adapt, not because we want to, but because our survival depends on it. And by the time we reach adulthood, those masks have fused with our sense of self. We start to confuse safety with selfhood. To be authentic, then, isn't about being loud or different. It's about being honest. It's about reconnecting with the quiet, unfiltered voice underneath the conditioning. The one that asks uncomfortable questions and tells inconvenient truths. That's where freedom begins, not in being perfect, but in being real. From a psychological standpoint, authenticity is one of the deepest forms of self-acceptance. It requires what researchers call self-awareness, the ability to observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment. But awareness alone isn't enough. Authenticity also requires courage, because once you see what's real, you can't unsee it. Eric Fromm once said that most people fear freedom, not because they dislike it, but because freedom means taking responsibility for your choices. Authenticity is the same. To be authentic, you must take ownership of your desires, your opinions, and your contradictions. You can't hide behind the crowd. You can't blame how things are. Modern life makes this even harder. Social media has blurred the line between identity and image. We no longer just live, we perform. The problem isn't self-expression, it's curation. We edit ourselves until only the acceptable fragments remain. Over time, we become experts in mimicry, speaking in trends, dressing for algorithms, and thinking in sound bites. The more we adapt, the further we drift from our essence. This creates what psychologists call self-alienation, a state where you can no longer recognize your own motivations. You might feel lost, anxious, or detached, but can't explain why. The reason is simple. The persona has replaced the person. You become a stranger to your own truth. In existential philosophy, thinkers like Kierkegaard and Sartre argued that authenticity is the highest form of living, not because it's easy, but because it's honest. It means facing the absurdity of existence without hiding behind roles or systems. It's realizing that meaning isn't found in conformity, but in the choices we make despite uncertainty. When you begin to live authentically, life feels lighter, even if it's harder. You stop needing everyone to like you because you finally like yourself. You stop competing for validation because you've stopped outsourcing your worth. And you begin to see that truth, even when it hurts, is infinitely more peaceful than pretense. Living authentically isn't a switch you flip. It's a daily practice of honesty. It starts with small acts of alignment. Saying no when you mean no. Speaking your mind even when it trembles. Listening to what your gut tells you when something feels off. These are micro-rebellions against the false self. One powerful way to reconnect with authenticity is through reflection. Journaling, meditation, or even solitude can help you hear the voice underneath the noise. Ask yourself questions that pierce the surface. What do I actually want? What am I pretending not to know? Another is to set boundaries. You can't live authentically if you're constantly betraying yourself to please others. Boundaries aren't selfish. They're self-respect in action. They tell the world, this is where I end and you begin. And perhaps the hardest part, learn to tolerate disapproval. The more authentic you become, the more you'll challenge people who benefited from your compliance. Some will call you selfish. Others will say you've changed. That's fine. Authenticity always disturbs those who thrive on control. But the paradox is this: when you stop performing, you attract what's real. People start trusting you more because your energy no longer lies. Your relationships deepen, your purpose sharpens, and life, while still uncertain, feels honest. Research consistently shows that authenticity leads to higher self-esteem, emotional well-being, and satisfaction in relationships. When your actions match your values, you experience less internal conflict. You stop wasting energy maintaining appearances, and that freed energy turns into creativity, confidence, and peace. In leadership, authenticity builds trust. People follow those who feel real, not perfect. In art, authenticity breeds originality. The most powerful stories, music, and ideas come from those who refuse to imitate. And in love, authenticity creates intimacy, because connection without honesty is just performance. Living authentically doesn't mean you'll never adapt. It means you'll adapt without losing yourself. It's not about transparency for the sake of it, but about integrity, aligning what you say, think, and do even when no one's watching. Authenticity gives life texture. Without it, we're just actors chasing applause. With it, we become authors of our own narrative. To live authentically in a world built on appearances is an act of quiet rebellion. It's choosing substance over spectacle, truth over comfort, and peace over popularity. The path isn't glamorous. It's often lonely, misunderstood, and unpredictable. But it's the only path that leads back to yourself. And once you rediscover that self, you realize that authenticity isn't something you find, it's something you remember. As Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. And maybe that's what authenticity really is. Not a destination, but the daily decision to be real in a world that rewards imitation.